In the world of firearms, there are some guns that get a name for themselves by being extremely rugged and reliable, like the AK-47. On the other hand, you get guns like the AR-15, which make a name for themselves by being extremely accurate and having a vast array of internal and external upgrades. And then there are the guns that are the hybrids, where the designers looked at the best aspects of the AK and the AR and even a few other guns and came up with their own mix of the best of both worlds, which is what the Israelis did when they created the gun that we're going to be talking about today, which is the IMI Galil. Nothing so big. The Galil first came about in the 1960s when a Russian immigrant to Israel named Yisrael Balishnikov, who later changed his name to Galili, came up with the idea of using certain aspects of the AK-47, the AR-15, the Willamette, the Stoner, and a number of other rifles to get the best features of each one of those guns to create a true hybrid. In fact, when you first look at this gun, it's quite easy to see the influences that were used in its creation. The Galil was the official service rifle of the Israeli military from the mid-1970s until the early 2000s, when it was phased out in favor of the Tavor. The Galil came in three basic versions. The largest was the ARM, which was the automatic rifle machine gun, which was essentially a light machine gun version of the Galil. The middle-sized version was the AR, or automatic rifle. The version that we're looking at today, this is the SAR, which is the short automatic rifle. Essentially, it's a stripped-down version of the Galil that eliminates the carry handle, the bipod, and a number of other features to make it into a more compact version. Identifying a Galil is fairly easy, especially when you see an AK-styled receiver with a NATO-style 5.56 magazine in it. Now, this may resemble an AR-15 magazine, but this is a proprietary magazine designed specifically for the Galil. So rather than going straight in like an AR magazine, the mag mounts like an AK where it tips in and locks back. Another key feature of the Galil is the cocking handle, which is a fairly ambidextrous design. Rather than using the AK, which favored left-handed shooters where right-handed shooters had to reach under the gun to operate it, the Galil, they mounted it in a more ambidextrous position where either left-handed or right-handed people can operate it just as easily. The selector switch on a Galil is exactly like an AK-47, where you have safe, fully automatic, and then semi-automatic. On the real Galil, there is an ambidextrous selector on the opposite side of the gun, but on the airsoft version, this is non-functional. So for changing the status of your gun, you have to use the AK-style safety lever. The stock is a folding design, which is very similar to the ones that you see on the FAL. To fold the stock, you just simply press downward, which allows you to unlatch it, and then the stock simply folds up. To unfold the stock, once again, you have to press downwards to unlock it, and then the stock simply locks back in place once you have it fully deployed. Now, the sights on the Galil are one of the more unique features of this gun. Now, it has your standard military-style apertures in the back, which have two different apertures depending on lighting conditions, and in the front you have your standard front post, which is under a protective hood. But for night shooting, you can then put your aperture to the middle position, where you can just simply raise this large notch in the rear and then a larger post in the front. Now, in the real world, these would be tritium night sights, which would glow in the dark, but this being an airsoft gun, obviously, these are just for looks. As far as the battery compartment on the Galil goes, it's exactly like the AK-47, although there is one major advantage of the Galil in that the latch is much longer and gives a better, more positive lock on the upper receiver. To remove it, just simply press in the latch and remove the dust cover, exposing the battery compartment. Essentially, AKs and Galils use the same battery, which are the stick type. As far as the internals, this uses a standard V3, just like the AK-47, as well as the hop-up system is identical to the AK-47. So for doing any kind of internal upgrades to this gun, just use standard AK internals like gearboxes, hop-ups, and so on. Now, although the Israelis used a proprietary scope mounting system, there is no external mounts on this gun for adding flashlights, lasers, or scopes. So if you're fond of using optics, the Galil may not be your best choice. Now, there was, back in the day, an aftermarket modular rail system that was available for this system by AIM, but to my knowledge, that has been discontinued. So if you're going to mount anything on this gun, you're going to have to get creative as far as putting some sort of rail system on it. Of course, for me, having a Galil is to have a gun that specifically looks like this. If I wanted a gun with a bunch of rails and other features on it, I would have just gotten an AR-15 or something like that. As far as overall usability and what I would recommend for players that are looking into this gun, I would say if you like this style gun and you're getting it because you specifically want to have a Galil, then absolutely go ahead and get it. If you're getting this gun for any other reason, I would recommend either the AK or the M4, because in the airsoft world, any advantages of this are way outweighed by the more advanced parts and accessories that are available, especially for the M4. Not to mention the fact that this uses a proprietary magazine, so finding Galil mags are not something that's going to be easy to do. But outside of that, if you're looking for a gun that has specific looks, whether you served in the Israeli military or know somebody that did, or just happen to really like this design, this does make a great collector's item. The Galil SAR is still in production by SEMA, and it generally runs in about the $200, $250 price range. Once again, just as with all of the other guns in our collection, if you'd like to come down and feel it for yourself and see if this is something that you'd like to order, we'd be glad to order one for you. So feel free to stop on down and try it out for yourself. And until the next time, don't let the bastards get you down.